Apple also in trouble with the president. The company has been shifting its production from China to India for iPhones and aims to make most of the iPhones sold in the U.S. at factories in India by the end of 2026 next year. And that is, of course, to avoid higher U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. But President Donald Trump is not happy about that move, lashing out at Apple CEO Tim Cook. Take a listen to this.
I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I've treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India.
President Trump there expressing his unhappiness with Apple. Apple is not the only company, by the way, shifting its production to India. One of Apple's key suppliers, Foxconn, also known as Hanhai Precision, is also moving there, and that brings us to our big number of the day. $433 million. That's the size of Foxconn's joint investment with Indian company HCL Group to build a chip plant in India's Uttar Pradesh. Now, the new facility will manufacture Foxconn's display driver chips used in mobile phones, laptops, automobiles, PCs, and other consumer electronics. And here we go. It's really just thinking about some of these China plus one economies. And I think I posed that question to a number of our guests yesterday, and many of them were talking about how, of course, they were talking about the Indian equity side of things, and it's really the domestic consumption story that they really like. And, of course, looking at this tariff pause or a ceasefire between the U.S. and China, does that somehow pause the China plus one strategies by corporates and other businesses? I think that is really the key question going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a good one, Sherry. And from the available evidence, at least from the Chinese side, it seems as though even with this 90-day pause, you've got Chinese corporates not stopping. They're continuing to diversify. On the U.S. side, the whole story about Apple trying to diversify and doing a plus one, or rather more, I don't know, what would that be, a plus one or plus two? Because, you know, what Apple is trying to do is basically, you know, sort of tariff country hop, right? Can't do it in China? Okay, let's try India now. But for the president, you know, he's saying, look, no, Tim, you can't do that. I'm making it harder in China. You can't just move to India. You got to bring the jobs back home and production back home. But that is just not going to happen.
That beats the purpose of his whole tariff policy and what he's trying to achieve with China and pretty much the rest of the world as well. But we will have to see how things go here, because specifically for Foxconn, they were pursuing a JV in India and they had to pull in 2023. It's not very clear as to why, but some reports did suggest that they didn't really see eye to eye when it comes to strategic strategies and cultural approaches and so on. Of course, this is with another conglomerate in India as well. And there was a delay in incentive approvals from the Indian authorities as well. So is that going to be a smooth ride from here on for this particular JV? That's another thing to watch as well.